Thank you for tuning in to the Practical Preservation Podcast. Please take a moment to visit our website, practicalpreservationservices.com, for additional information and tips to help you restore your historical home. If you've not done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and also like us on Facebook. Welcome to the Practical Preservation Podcast, hosted by Danielle and Jonathan Kepperling. Kepperling Preservation Services is a family-owned business based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, dedicated to the preservation of our built architectural history for today's use as well as future generations. Our weekly podcast provides you with expert advice specific to the unique needs of renovating a historic home, educating by sharing our From the Trenches preservation knowledge and our guests' expertise, balancing modern needs while maintaining the historical significance, character, and beauty of your period home.
Matching material called Lithomix. Andy is married to Audrey, and they have 4 children. So, Andy, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, Danielle.
So, when I was reading that, I was thinking about, we had a seminar 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, and somebody asked about where they could get the line-based mortars and training, and I did give you a plug. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So how did you get started in preservation?
Well, I guess I first have to answer how I got started in masonry. And when I was in high school, I didn't have funds really to go to college or know what direction I wanted to go. So a lot of kids go undecided and they take student loans, and that's how they get involved in going to college. But I thought to myself, well, what's the other options? And, dating myself with Dan Fogelberg as a guitarist, he sang a song, leader of the band. His father was a cabinet maker's son. And so all of a sudden that kind of romantic idea of being a craftsperson sprung to mind. And so I started looking at trade schools, and I found one of the oldest trade schools in the country, the Williamson Free School of Mechanical Trades. It's called Williamson College of the Trades now, but it was called the Free School of Mechanical Trades. And I applied there, and it is in fact free. I lived there for 3 years on a scholarship, room, board, and my training all covered by a scholarship. So I graduated with no debt, and I went to there for learning masonry specifically. So when I got out of school, to answer the question, how did I get started in preservation? Because I live in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and there's just littered with historic brick and stone buildings. When I got out, I worked for a few contractors for a few years. And then I decided that the level of masonry that I was doing is probably more elaborate of what I learned at Williamson than what was being done to just build block buildings or whatever I was building. And so I decided to start my own business in 1984. So that was a good 35 years ago, and when I had truck and had trowel and will travel and will do whatever masonry, whatever somebody wanted, I could do all the different trowel trades. I could set tile and plaster and stucco and blade bricks and blocks and stones. I found that when I was asked, only 6 months into business, to repoint an old stone farmhouse, I did find that work was a little more pleasant because you could kind of slow things down, and you could do things that had to do with remedying the shortcomings of a historic structure where the stonework has to be relaid or repairs have to be done, and how the masonry ties into the cornice or to the. So I found that was just the tip of the iceberg of finding that most all of our beautiful historic structures have so much detail. Their character defining features that are to do with belts of brickwork laid in red mortar where the rest is laid in a buff color mortar, or there could be a brownstone with rusticated faces, and limestone, Indiana limestone sills, and just so many ornate detailing that we don't see today. So I kind of fell in love with preservation. So that's what got me started in historic preservation, just being asked to repair old buildings. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to make that my specialty and niche.
And niche and focus, and that makes sense. And I going back to the beginning, I love that song. It actually, every time I hear it, it makes me think of my dad. So, did you find in the early 80s when you were starting out on your own, did you have to do a lot of research on historic masonry, or I know right now with the internet it's much easier to do your research now, but was that a struggle in the beginning?
Yeah, I would say, at school, my instructor was a contractor 30 years, and then he also, taught there, good, well, he's a contractor for like 20 years and taught there for like 30 years. And his instructor was also, 30 years as an instructor there. So a lot of the type of information that I got was a throwback to old. So I had a great, textbook, and more than a textbook, my notebook where I took written notes of what, I was taught, came in helpful later regarding mortar mixes and things. But what had me very curious was the only in 1986 did I take an intense workshop by a company called Restore, all capital letters. They're based in Manhattan, and they had intensive workshops in Williamsburg, Virginia for a couple of weeks, and I took a class led by the professor of architectural conservation at Columbia. Okay. So it was that class, only 2 years in the business, where material science opened my eyes. So as we know, this interview is about where I've gone and with lime works, what's all with the lime and all that kind of stuff. Well, I really, when you go to school and trade school, whatever, the materials you use are what you're told to use, and you're not a chemist, you don't know anything about all this stuff, so you do whatever you're told. But when I realized that there's 6,000 years of building history with lime and sand only for mortar, and yet these castles and all these buildings worldwide are still standing kind of with a quiet testimony, hey, this works. Right. You're getting new and improved everything in the United States, everywhere else. But guess what? If you go back to very fundamental types of materials, you can get a service life that's outstanding. So I learned this from the professor from Columbia and, at this workshop. And so I became very intrigued with the material that is the binder that holds together the sand, the aggregate in a mortar that's called, this binder is called lime. Right. And what does that mean? It's very, very simple material, but yet there's some complexities. And interestingly, in our country, probably the world, like most who vie for market share to get, sell their stuff, people have an interest to keep it smoke and mirrors and confusing and all that, where it doesn't really need to be. Right. And so part of our mission is, because we're craftspeople first, we really just want to know, give us the straightforward, straight up answer, be on the level about all this stuff, because we need to execute good quality repairs. And so my intent to get the material originally, to understand it, was to elevate my craft and raise the bar for the quality of the repair.
And longevity.
And longevity, all that good stuff,
So, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I was doing some research, not for this interview, but in April, I did a blog post about sustainability and concrete and how hard Portland is on the environment and environmentally, and how lime is a better option. But that was when I had the revelation that all of the stucco, plaster, mortar, all of that is pretty much the same basic, recipe, or not recipe but ingredients, and then the recipe is just a little different. But I hadn't had that revelation until then.
Yes. So modern materials do have all kinds of synthetic plastics and resins and all kinds of things. Lime, it's kind of like the trade is ancient. It's a lot of bulwark, and it's a lot of handwork to do good quality detailing. And then the mortar is this very, very simplistic, earthy, very plentiful material, lime. But it's been modified so many ways with people who have a corner on their whatever it is they're trying to patent, you know, and make a system that can be palletized and shipped.
Right.
But it wasn't, buildings weren't built like that originally. No. And so there's some really good sort of like truths about going back to how things were done and finding that, you know, the easy answer, the simple answer, the one we did before was the best answer.
Yes. Yeah. So we kind of talked about how you got started and your focus on preservation. Are there things that you wish you knew when you got started that you know now, or any major mistakes?
Oh, major mistakes.
Yeah. Public confessions.
Oh my gosh. I always say, my favorite story is to say, you know, if you had a wonderful omelet, you know, that an omelet chef made, and you say, my gosh, you're a genius in what you do. You'd say, well, you didn't see the 1,000 omelets I had to throw out.
Right.
But to get to this point where I can just whip it together in no time, right? Yeah. So, you know, in the same way, I don't think there's any rite of passage to get to, you know, like I'm an overnight success.
Right.
35 years overnight success. You know what I mean? You know, you got to like put in the time, school hard knocks, get beat up. Yeah. I think the biggest trouble, I had a conversation with a contractor from New York, Manhattan this morning, who, you know, in a way, a lot of us in the trades, you know, we rely on each other to talk about our troubles or whatever. And, you know, he was just saying how the trade, you know, if it could only just be the trade and it wasn't all the other complexities of running business and dealing with people and all the you know, laws and regulations and things that just make it so restrictive and hard, and the craft, the trade is pleasurable, it's lovely, it's wonderful, it's a wonderful thing to spend your life on. And so it's so the things that I wish I knew when I got started was, I guess I did not know how hard it would be to operate and run a seasonal business, because masonry, and especially if you're going to use lime, your window of time it's like from good weather spring to the worst of like around Thanksgiving after in the fall. And so you got 9 months to make hay while the sun shines. So you have a limited amount of time to really make up whatever your you know, your figures
and
are.
Then you have
need.
to make it work.
And you got to make it work, but everyone wants to work year round, so you have to schedule inside work and do this, do that. And rain for the last 2 years.
Oh my goodness, rain was terrible.
Talk about even when I think I had it figured out, then you throw. How about we throw this wrench into your mixer? You know, boom. You know, like now it's raining and you know, and I'll tell you that, you know, there's so many issues. The world's getting so complex. So anything I wish I knew when I started is like, well, you know what? I really don't wish, if I could go back, I don't wish that anybody would have told me how hard it was, because if they did,
you might have got
I
discouraged.
might have not even gone for it. Yeah. But when I was 21 and invincible, okay, and I'm 58 now, but back then I was like, okay, I could do it, you know. Yeah. You know, had I known, I might have been just, oh my gosh, scared to death. Yeah. So you don't know, you just deal with it and that's pretty much when we ended up discovering in the end. Right. You know, we try to plug numbers into a Gantt chart and try to figure out the computer, the scheduling or whatever. I don't think so. Yeah. You just got to just cross that bridge. You run with plan A and B and C when guys are calling sick or something happens or material's not there or who knows what, you know. You're going to have to just be thinking quick on your feet and be ready to be like the lime. Yes. Lime is here for thousands of years because it has a symbiotic relationship with nature. Right. It does not fight water. It likes water to come into it and releases it back to the atmosphere. Right. And because it's malleable and moves with the slight movements of the earth, it has lasted for centuries because it's not rigid like cement is. Yeah. So the point is if you are rigid, a person, the crafts and arts, artists have to be a little free thinking and a little bit open-minded. Because if you get rigid about stuff, you are just going to break. Oh yeah. Like cement breaks.
And you see some of those artists that are like, they just can't handle it.
Some of them, you know, the starving artist is a whole other issue about we get focused on our craft, we forget to balance the books, pay the bills kind of thing. Yeah. Somehow or another, even though my name's deGruchy, it's a French name, right? So I got a little artisty French kind of thing. My mother's maiden name von Stolzenberg. So I got some German side fighting in my head about you balance the books, okay?
Industry.
And you can do fancy stuff, you know? So.
That's great. I think that's great advice too, because you have to have that balance.
Yeah.
So what are the challenges that you see in preservation looking forward, or that you're encountering now?
Well, I'd say there's so many challenges. It is almost overwhelming to think of what would go wrong. You know, you really have to approach this. Probably it's a life lesson thing. You got to almost approach life, with the glass half full.
Yeah.
Because you could see it half empty and emptying out, and you could see it's the end of the world. And at any given time, probably from Noah's day, it's the end of the world, to now it's Noah's probably building an ark again. I know it's a mess. You know, with the rain, the environment. Never mind drugs. Drug abuse everywhere. Okay, so I think at the root of what I see as the biggest problem with preservation is that, they often say, there's a saying, I'm not sure who quoted it, but it was that, what we have decided to save tells a lot to the future.
Right.
What
was important
to us, right? So I think that seeing value in older things.
Yes.
I love older things because I realize you're never going to get that made in America again.
Right.
You're never going to see that. And when they bulldoze a historic, stone building with these beautiful, stones that have been hand dressed and have beautiful detailing, I don't know that they realize how much effort went in and how effortlessly beautiful that building is, as opposed to a stick frame with just an elastomeric stucco and everything else that's planned obsolescence or falling apart.
Right.
But the issue is that we don't seem to teach value in substance of long-term community. Everyone wants to go to Europe, to these villages that are ancient, and see how they built it once and it's here for 1,000 years.
Right.
But here we're building pop-up McMansion kind of here today, going to tomorrow, point of sale, just sell it, get out of your money and run, whoever the builder is or whatever. We're going a very slow and hard track by trying to stop everything, hold the phone, let's look at what we're doing, and let's try to do a very high quality repair. I'm not alone. There's a lot of people who believe, and you need those. You need patrons.
Yes.
You need so in preservation, you need somebody who says, "I get you. I know what you want. You know what? I'm not flipping this church."
Right.
You got a lot of our customers would be someone who has a church in the community. They said, "We've been here around 150 years. We did not repoint the bell tower to 100 years."
Right.
And now every 25 years, we're seeing we got to repoint. Right. Andy, can you get us back on track with the 100-year fix? Because we can't afford to keep doing $200,000 repointing jobs every 25 years.
Well, and the whole idea of having that permanence and the people who really do understand. I mean, I can tell you when somebody calls and they're not a tenant in the house, like if they're a landlord or they're just trying to flip it, I know that we're not going to be a good fit, because the solution that we offer is not going to be the cheapest, which is what they're looking for, and it's they just want something so that it looks good, so that they can sell it and be done.
Exactly. So there's a problem with what people value.
Right.
There's too much emphasis on money and how much money you have, and money. Money is really it's really the stuff that money buys, I suppose, is what maybe. But then what you buy, I think
also shows your values.
We work for a lot of people that are very successful, because if it's not a historic church, it's a person with maybe a homestead that goes back 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 generations. And they feel a stewardship of their building. And they're like, you know what, this is my great-grandfather built it. I want to do this 100% the right way, because I value my family, values the structure, and all that kind of thing. So I find that either it's a family homestead or people who have purchased because they were well off. They've done well in business, let's say. And they decide that they really want that Bucks County, farmhouse with a lot of acreage and beautiful history behind it and all that. And when I go down their tree-lined driveway and I meet these people, some of them are no wonder they did well in business. They make good decisions. So what they do is they know how to procure good quality goods. And so they will rifle through, not taking the low, we're not trying to go for the lowest price or what, because they know, and they've already, the things that they drive, the things they own, the things are all of very solid substance
and quality.
And so one is teaching what is quality. Where should you spend your money? What should you engage yourself in and purchase and surround yourself with? So there's like an education. So this is where the key thing. You said, what's the biggest problem? And we know we often go back to, education. People need to be educated. Because the way the industries in the United States sell you stuff, I remember when Lick 'em Stick 'em Stone came out. We never do Lick 'em Stick 'em Stone, never. We've always done real stonework, real brickwork, okay? When it came out, I could not get over that this stuff was dropped off with 5 shapes in a box. And it looked like you put somebody's patio on their wall, right? And I'm like, this stuff's never going to sell. How's it going to go? Yeah. You know what? Lick 'em Stick, when you put a sales force behind even crap, you will put out of business the genuine article, the real masons, and the quarries closed, and everything else. And now it's palletized. And so I don't care if it's pharmaceutical or Lick 'em Stick 'em Stone or everything else. Everyone it's going for sales and market share and packaging things into a system. It's not about handwork and craft and what. So, the biggest problem is not falling for the lie that is fed to us every day by stuff that's systematized and saying that's the way you got to do it. You got to go with the system. Don't buck the system, Andy, But artists buck the system.
They do.
We say, we're not going for the status quo. You don't got to tell us how to think and what to do. We're going to do what our heart tells us. And so I think the biggest and we're trying to the biggest challenge of preservation is that people aren't educated about what really is valuable. And then the other, the younger generations anymore, and you talk to anybody who sells antiques, they say the new generations, they're not that really interested in antiques. They want a condo and a bicycle and go to the park. And I can't blame you. Life is about enjoying your life, not necessarily, having a dining room like your mother did or whatever with the silverware. People don't do that stuff anymore exactly. But so the values can change and can be maybe changed for good, But still the idea is where you put value, is that a problem in preservation is. Like say a developer, they don't have a tear in their beer about bulldozing a farmhouse that's on the property where they're going to put a big development of homes. They no care whatsoever. This thing's a nuisance, is going to go away. And so because there's pressures and because there's middle of the night, okay, you know what you do? You tear it down and then you beg forgiveness after it's done. Let's do that in a hurry. Now let's try that trick. Okay, everybody is tricking everybody, and the tricks in a way. Same with making in America. No, we don't produce anything in America. We supply. So guess what? We're not producing anything. And believe me, I love microbreweries, and whole towns are being reinvented by this being restaurants and microbreweries. But we're not producing any thing. Space. We're just moving around old money. And and again, I think all this, new development, bulldoze and everything, it's in our way. It's in our way because I have an agenda. My agenda is make money at the expense of our cultural heritage, our historic restoration. We don't care to tell the story to our children. No, Johnny, we're not from a land of glass boxes. Like in Philadelphia, if they start bulldozing every building in there, like just say Philadelphia's doing a great job right now, restoring a lot of structures. But when you approach a city and anymore the beautiful skyline of what would be buildings that had a traditional appearance of masonry, and they replaced with this less maintenance, glass, all glass. It's a land of glass boxes. It doesn't tell the story of where we came from and who we are and what we valued. What did our forefathers value? They obviously thought, let's just tear all that down. So why don't we just tear everything down? That must be an answer. Tear stuff down. So it's really, I think, a big problem in preservation. You need people who care for things, conservators and curators and people that want to document and archive history and value and tell the story, because we need to be able to tell our children's children where we come from, what's important. And I don't care if it was 15,000 years ago, cave paintings. They told the story. You should have seen the bison, the horses, the things we shot. They wanted to tell the story to the next generation who it was. And so these historic structures are a thumbprint of how we did things and what was of value. and we cannot lose that. And if we do, you say, what's the worry if we lose it? Well, even in war, when the British occupied Philadelphia in 1777, one of their first thing they knew it. We knew it. I'm right here from Philadelphia area. I was born in Philadelphia and raised in the area. Okay, we took the Liberty Bell down as quick as we could get it down. You know why? Because they're going to go in Philadelphia. They're going to take all those bells down from all those churches and melt them and then shoot us with our Liberty Bell, make bullets, right?
Yeah.
So we took that bell down, we ran it up past Quakertown, where I live, up in Allentown, hit it overnight. Yeah. But the point is, the whole reason, not just to get metal and make bullets, the whole reason that even in warfare, the very first thing you do is to demoralize people, is to take away their cultural identity, ruin everything that they recognize as valuable. Yeah. Well, our own worst enemy, we're doing it to ourselves. We're tearing our own heritage. We don't need anybody to bomb us. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're bombing ourselves. Yeah. So the problem in preservation is this incredible shift of thinking that has to occur. And I'm hoping we're on the forefront of it, and I just am searching for other like-minded people to be champions with us.
Yeah. And something, the whole demolition thing, I know when I was involved with the Lancaster, or the Historic Preservation Trust of Lancaster County, the executive director at the time was going to every municipality in Lancaster County, and that's one thing that I don't think people understand is, like, all those decisions are made at local levels. So you have to kind of get involved in your local politics. And there's 60 different municipalities in just Lancaster County that can write these, demolition. And they were just going, because in Pennsylvania's Constitution, it says we have to conserve our historic resources along with our natural resources. Those two things are in the Pennsylvania Constitution. And so we went to all of the municipalities and we're like, at least put a demolition, review in place, because, a lot of them don't have anything. So one way that I think that I've been trying to get people involved in that is at least talk to your local people, get them to realize that there might not be anything standing in between, no legality, or no rules standing in between your demolition permit or not, might not even need a permit depending on where it is.
Right.
So that's, I think I try to, I don't think most people realize that. I think they think it's made at these big levels, but it's all local. Yeah. So do you see, I guess we kind of talked about your trends in preservation. Do you want to talk about the, what you're doing here to help kind of with the education at the
Craftwork Training Center.
Craftwork Training Center.
Craftwork Training Center. Yeah. So basically, it's like this. If you wonder, what am I sprinkling on my Cheerios to be having all this energy to do this? I'm 58 years old. Most people are kind of thinking, like, should I retire? Do I have an exit strategy? How am I going to tiptoe out backwards out of this one? So I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't golf, right? So I'm not going to go. I'm not planning on retire. Because one, if you love what you're doing, when's the line between, and what do you do when you retire? I want to be purposeful.
Yeah.
So when I realized that Limeworks, our company, supplied iconic projects around the United States, we supplied all the mortar to restore St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan. We supplied all the mortar to restore the Rotunda Dome at University of Virginia. It's a blur. There's so many historic structures we are relied on so greatly. We employ in our laboratory someone who has his master's in historic preservation from Penn, and we do mortar analysis, all this wonderful stuff. And I feel like, you know what, Andy, it's a dream that a mason is going to ever get a chance to serve his industry in such a large capacity. So almost like, Andy, you obligated to not retire. We're gonna prop you up as long as we need. Like, I'm telling myself, everybody, prop me up. We got to keep this going.
Well, and you only have two hands. Like, you can only do so much physical work, but to be able to, I can see that thought process.
You got to delegate, and so and that is exactly my thought process, in the sense that all our guys. I've had guys with me 30 years. I got many seasoned professionals here. And so we thought to ourselves, what am I going to do? Say, well, here's a gold watch. Thanks for your 30 years. Don't let the screen door hit you on the way out. I'm not doing that to anybody. So rather, I want to honor them and say, hey, you know what? You got a lot of knowledge. How about we try in the next, whatever many years we get, to try to pass the baton to another generation and create this mentor, this love, pass the fire of the love of the trade. Because a trade, it sounds a lot like work, and the schools, where generally the VOTEC schools
Right.
are like, Johnny, you're not doing well. Let's put you in a VOTEC because you seem to be a flunky.
Which
All right.
just makes me angry because you
That-
need a brain.
Yeah. So, now you go into go in the cities and these beautiful row homes
Yeah.
and the pocket doors and the woodwork.
Yeah.
These guys were very skilled.
Yes.
And they were smart. They had a measure and
Yes.
cut and figure. And at the end, it's not just you're very smart or you're very needy because it's a depression. It's 1930
Right,
or row home or something like that. No, it's because in the end there is a fulfillment that it's kind of being lied to.
Right.
In a way, the universities. I'm not against the university. I love higher education as
Right.
well. But I'm a little bit upset about all the billboards you see on the highways about if you're going to have cancer, you're going to have a heart of operation.
Right.
They're all competing in the hospitals like it's some kind of, again,
Right.
money.
Right.
And then same thing with universities. Come learn your new career and your life here and all that.
Right.
When those jobs, they might get nothing but a huge student loan and
Yeah.
not be able to get a job.
Yeah.
Where here in a trade, you engage your head and your heart and your hands, and
Yes.
you end up having a sense of fulfillment, and you're earning while you're learning. You're making a
Right.
great living.
Yeah.
So I should probably be the poster child of that because I went to trade school and now I have a wonderful home and I have this farm.
Yes.
And so my intent now, you ask me what's my pushback? I am saying that instead of planning any kind of retirement, me and the guys who work for me as masons and tradespeople, we are engaging them to be at the forefront of teaching whomever would take classes. Now, see, in the last 20 years, I have Limeworks.
Right.
People say, well, can you tell me any intricacies about
Yeah.
pointing with lime or plastering or stuck or anything like that? So we'd say, oh yeah, we'd run a class haphazardly whenever.
Right.
But then when I decided to buy this farmstead that goes back to 1736, 7 generations of a Mennonite family lived here. It was a sawmill that ran for 150 years on a water wheel.
Mm-hmm.
I told the township when I said, hey, I'm zoned to plant industrial. Do you mind if I take this and repurpose and breathe new life into this old farm?
Right.
And they're all dilapidated buildings, but I restore those buildings. So let me restore them and convert it into a place that teaches historic preservation, using this as the background of these antique buildings. And so they love the idea because probably a lot of the lumber that built the surrounding towns came from this Durstone
Right,
mill right
yeah.
here today. So they were all for what I'm doing, and so now I'm trying to honor my guys by saying, would you run classes? So we're still we're doing a bell tower right
you're
now.
working,
Church, we're still working, but I'll pull them off. Like today, we have 7 people taking a repointing class. One of my guys came off the scaffold, and I got him here teaching today.
Yeah.
At first, the guys were like, I don't know how to teach a class. I don't know what to say, whatever. But after a while, they realized by showing people how much they actually know by them showing them, realizing no, they
Right.
don't get what you're saying. You know what I mean? And then now they're very proud about it. And so I feel that the best thing we can do, I would call it like a legacy part of our lives, is to say, let's take whatever remaining years we have and try to do our best effort to like just incubate a new generation of proud craftsmen.
Yes.
Because you can't legislate and tell people, okay, people who don't make any or welfare in the city, we're going to start a program and we're going to enroll you and pay for it's all paid for you to become a mason. Then
Right.
they go and they're like, I don't want to do this. They
Right.
told me to do this. I'm doing this because I got to
Yeah.
do it, or else I won't get a paycheck.
Right.
But we're not going about that way. We know that the only way to really pass a trade on to someone else is you have to learn from a mentor, an apprenticeship. You got to work with somebody,
Yeah.
understand, and then all of a sudden you start to fall in love with the nuances of what you do.
Yes.
And once you start engaging your head and your heart and your hands,
It all
you
comes
start
together.
you start making money by it
Yes.
because you're good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start feeling really, you can't wait to get a book about it, another
Right.
book, or start
Yeah.
reading or hearing about this, going to a seminar. And next thing you know, you've got fulfillment in your life. Because a lot of people are searching for that too.
They are.
They're not
They
just
are.
money,
Yeah.
they got to be happy.
Yeah, you want more than just a job.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
Because money and needing to pay your bills will only get you out of bed, so many days, and then the other days they're calling in with excuses. So I had two thoughts while you were saying that. I don't even know what the name of the program was, but there was a program in Lancaster City like that, and I was calling it carpentry for convicts, because it was like they were having a trade school. There were people who had just gotten out of jail had to go to it. I'm like, did anybody ask them? So, yeah. But and who comes to your classes? Is it homeowners? Is it tradespeople? Is it?
A lot of people think that it's just homeowners or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. We do have homeowners sometimes.
Okay.
We'll have people come from all across the country,
That's
even Jamaica, because I got a connection with the islands where they like my idea of Craftwork Training Center. The problem is worldwide of younger people not going into the traditional trades. Yeah. And so they're trying to learn in Jamaica how we are doing this, because they want to replicate and get a cluster of old buildings and start a Craftwork Training Center
that's
there.
Great.
Okay,
yeah.
So the people have come from all over to take the classes. All right. Well, we have homeowners Missouri. They don't come from Missouri.
Right.
Say, I'm here today because I have tried to get someone to repoint my chimney or my foundation. I can't get anyone.
Right.
And the truth is, in the end, if we show the simple steps to do it, it's not rocket science. You don't have to have a Harvard degree to do repointing.
Right.
However, sometimes the guy is disqualified who has a Harvard degree, because sometimes they are not going to just focus on the simple task of what it is.
Yeah.
So sometimes people who do simple work is such a profoundly exactly what you need to do to get the job done.
Definitely.
And so people will say, you know what? I am just going to go take this class and fix my own place. So we do get homeowners. Mm-hmm. But we also get, the International Masonry Institute is the training arm of unionized masons. Oh, okay. And we've had their trainers come here to be trained.
That's great.
Yeah, we've had them trained not just to do pointing, but we have the lithomix is really, it's only a matter of time till everyone who is in the trade understands it. But it is superior to anything out there.
And that works for brick and stone.
Brick and stone, restoring and repairing lost faces of bricks and stones and recarving. The material, we just had an intern from Penn do her thesis, and they put it through 100-year weathering chambers and all kinds, beat the stuff out of it. Came up with flying colors. And so we know that we have very, very good materials to work with. And so union masons are finding that, guess what, it's also, he's selling it at a very palatable price compared to the ooh-la-las. Some people want to make their European branded, with smoke and mirrors and all kind of things just for money.
Right.
And yet there's shortcomings in its when you do the repair, they're failing prematurely, and they're like, must be application errors, your guys aren't good enough, or didn't know, or whatever. Well, the masons, you can't fool them if their hands on the wall and they're using our stuff up against what they already know.
Right.
They are saying, you know what, this stuff feels good. Somehow something feels very good about this material. Then they're seeing the outcome, and they're demanding to the architect or the building owner, could we please switch this specification to this stuff, this lithomix, because it's beautiful stuff. So because of that demand, then that's the union training facility said, a lot of masons are wanting this stuff. We better get trained, because we have a when someone comes to take a class here, we will give them a certificate of completion, and all that says is you had a pulse and you were here and you did something, right? Certificate of completion doesn't guarantee anything, right? Because we get people who come here and we're after like day one, we're like, have you ever done this before? And they're like, no. And it's like, you know what? You got natural talent.
Right.
Then we've had people who are masons with 15 degrees and everything else like that. They can't even freaking lay a brick. Okay. So I don't know what, I have no idea.
Right.
So this is just, what I'm getting at is we have a place in order to have people practice and perfect their art. They can come here to Craftwork Training Center, and they can take a very simple class and a more complex class and more complex class. But we have with, say, the lithomix, we don't have a certificate of completion. We have a certified installer class, and then we have a certified trainer class for training others. And that's what the IMI is interested in having their trainers be trained to be trainers, because they don't want to send everyone to Telford, PA, and they got like 60 some training facilities across the country. So what people come here from homeowners to country bumpkin mason guys that are out, just doing work in Bucks County or Lancaster, wherever, anywhere USA. We get those guys. We get, all sorts of people just curious and want to, we have people who have a regular job.
Right.
And they want to augment what they do. They want to keep their day job.
Yeah.
But they see we have a wood shop where we teach wood, shutter, wood sash, and door restoration. And we intend to have a smithy shop. We tend to have other shops that we have a plaster studio and so on. People come and because they want to just have something they could do on the weekend, or they could sell a job, or just for their own satisfaction. So,
okay. So I think we've touched on it, but you can tell me if there's anything else. What makes your business different from other preservation businesses?
I think my business is a lot like other preservation businesses because if we gel with another person who's a crafts person, and we gel with someone who's a preservation business like you guys are historic restorations, the reason we gel is because you love what you're doing.
Right.
We love that's a common denominator. Right. So the difference is the thing about deGruchy masonry restoration, and many have told me this over the years, is that Andy, there's some big companies, that do masonry restoration in the cities, and yet they're all owned by, it's just business, nothing personal. It's just business. Here we're just business people. Yeah. We don't care what they maybe care, but they're saying it's the commodity which we sell. Right. The difference is I am a mason and I love the trade. Understand it. And I understand it, and so. We are not like other preservation businesses that get into it because it's a lucrative business to get into. Right. We are like preservation businesses that are into the real depth of the word to put in conservation, to restore, to preserve, to keep intact, to be healers, helpers, fixers, menders. Then we gel with those people, and so that's what makes us very much like
that. And we struggle with. That sometimes when we're finding employees, it's like you can get a good trim carpenter and they can do that work, but they get tired of repairing stuff all the time. They just want to go in and do new trim, so it's a different mindset. It really is. So how can our listeners get in contact with you?
Well, if they want to call Limeworks and Craftwork Training Center, it's easy. We've made it easy. 215-536-1776. All right, that's the spirit, right? So we have that number. Really easy to get hold of both Craftwork Training Center and Limeworks US. And my masonry business, repointing.com is where you see the work that we do as masons, and that's where people get a hold of me. Okay. My email is help@repointing.com. Okay,
and I'll make sure that those are on our website too when this gets posted.
Great.
And do you have any offers, any classes that are upcoming, anything for the listeners?
Well, yes, one really exciting thing that I think I'd like to share, and that is because it's just hot off the press. About 2 years we've been working with Bucks County Community College. Okay. They are quite a stellar organization, really a world-class associate degree in historic preservation. For such a community college to have such a high-level school class is pretty amazing. And they are known for it. We're around the country. Yeah. So here, what's really exciting is that, whether it be Penn or Columbia or Rutgers or, wherever they teach historic preservation, there is a very, very distinct need. If someone is going to be involved in historic preservation, and they might even dictate to the guys who do the work what should be done, shouldn't be done, it would be very helpful that those people who went to these schools had touched a brick, had laid a stone, had know what they're... Okay. Yeah. So Bucks County Community College is entering a partnership with us. Okay. And it is now effective that what's going to happen is if a student takes a class with us for a day and a half, they will be issued a prior learning unit, 1 college credit towards their 2-year associate degree. And if they spend like 3 days with us, it's 2 college credits, and a week with us, they get three of these prior learning.
Oh, that's great.
So here, feels good. I'm like I said, I call myself a bricky, mason, right? To be validated by the university, say, hey, you know what, you are doing something of substance here. Yes. And we recognize you, and we are going to issue a college credit towards that. It's very exciting. So on the flip, to show them that, look, it's not about money. I will tell you that running a Craftwork Training Center,
Right.
it's a money sink.
Right.
I have to have a love for doing this because it's not a money maker.
Yeah.
I'm taking the revenue streams of what I do at Limeworks and what I do working restoring buildings,
And then you're putting
and
it
by
into
funneling
this.
it back into this,
Yeah.
it's a give back to the
Yeah.
community and
Yeah.
to the trades thing. As I know it, it's as a money loser. But to double up my money losing capabilities, I told Bucks County Community College, any student that is enrolled in your program, our posted costs 50%. It's half the
great.
cost if you're, and that doesn't go just for Bucks. We are going to try to extend that to other legitimate students, with an agreement with other universities that if their students want to take a class, we want to be there to help them. And so we don't want money to be an issue.
Yeah.
And we also, for vets, we are, the Craftwork Training Center at this site is, the township's allowing me to take this very home we're in right now. It's built in 1897.
Yes.
It's a 9-bedroom brick Victorian. They're allowing me to turn it into a private guest house.
Okay.
So in doing so, we're making it ADA compliant, because if wounded vets and people want to say, I'm not packing it in.
Right.
I'm going to learn to do stained glass repair,
Right.
sitting down,
Yeah.
but how to do mosaics and stained
Yeah.
glass in a stained glass studio. We want to be able to accommodate
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So in the same way, we have veterans discounts,
Okay.
and they're all posted on our website.
Okay. Very good.
Craftworktrainingcenter.com.
Yeah, I'll make sure that those get posted on our website. Is there anything else that you can think of you wanted to share that we didn't cover?
No.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Preservation Podcast. The resources discussed during this episode are on our website at practicalpreservationservices.com/podcast. If you received value from this episode and know someone else that will get value from it as well, please share it with them. Join us next week for another episode of the Practical Preservation Podcast. For more information on restoring your historic home, visit practicalpreservationservices.com.